Hi, it's Dominic. If you're into AI images, AI influencers, and AI agents, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. In today's video, guys, I will open a new chapter of my YouTube channel by also delivering you praxis-based knowledge about AI agents. AI agents are the latest hot topic in AI, and it's absolutely not surprising why, considering how powerful they are. For my first video about AI agents, I wanted to give you something special. The tutorial that I would have needed when starting out with AI agents just a couple of weeks ago. As I just went through the process of learning everything about AI agents myself, I know exactly what questions beginners have and where they struggle. Because of that, I structured the tutorial as follows. In part 1, you learn the basics about AI agents in general. After that module, you know exactly what an AI agent is, what components it is made of, and what it can do in general. In part 2, you see a real functional AI agent I built for a friend's personal training business. After that module, you know how real business processes can be broken down into agent tasks that can be solved completely without human involvement. And in part 3, you learn how I built that agent on Relevance AI, a powerful no-code platform. After that module, you are able to set up your own AI agent by just adapting the skills you learned to whatever you want to build. Relevance AI is a so-called no-code platform, which means we actually don't need to write code to make it happen. Everything works with drag and drop, nice and easy. Nevertheless, we will use some Python code every now and then for some special functionalities. But no worries, it will be totally doable for you as I explain everything I do. Initially, I just planned to film a quick and easy tutorial, but now it kind of escalated into an entire mini course. To deliver you the most value possible, I decided to provide everything you see within that course completely for free within my free AI course you find in the description. The slides, the prompts, and even the tools, so you can just download everything and adapt it however you want. There's a lot to talk about, guys, so let's waste no further time and jump right into the tutorial. Good, let's begin with the fundamentals of AI agents. So in the first part, I want to answer the question, what actually is an AI agent? And I will give you a definition in just a couple of seconds, but I want to start out with a little example. And that is the onboarding process of a personal training client. Why did I choose that process? Very easy. This was the business I operated in before starting with AI. So I'm really familiar with that process and I can confirm this is exactly how we did it. So in the first step, we get an email of a client asking any question about the personal training or directly to schedule a call. Then a trainer has to answer maybe the questions or already suggest a call. And then a conversation is going back and forth between the trainer and the client. Sometimes this can take up to several days. In step 4, the trainer sends a confirmation to the client, and in step 5, the trainer updates his calendar. So Google is involved, Google Mail and Google Calendar. And as I already told you, this can take up to several days, which is a huge problem because the longer this process takes, the higher the possibility that the client finds another trainer or something comes in between, or he just changes his plans. So it's important to keep that process as short as possible. So what's the problem with that process, how you normally do it? ChatGPT can help us in the process, but we still have to do many steps like sending emails, checking calendar, and answering questions. Then, secondly, the task of answering questions and planning calls is not complex. It's not directly creating value, but it's time consuming and still important. And lastly, the client has to wait for replies. We have to wait for replies, and this can put the entire booking process in danger. So what can an AI agent do? The AI agent can automate the entire process. It can switch between different tools for different tasks like Gmail or Google Calendar. It can operate 24/7 and it makes no errors unless we instruct it already with errors. And it also speeds up the entire call booking process. It improves the user experience as the client gets immediately a confirmation, and it saves us time and therefore it increases our productivity. So coming back to the initial question, What is an AI agent? Then, an AI agent is a system that allows us to automate almost any problem solving process by breaking it down into different tasks that the AI agent solves completely on its own. This is the definition I use for AI agent. And in the next slide, we have a look at such a system. As any system, there's an input. In the case of an AI problem, this is a problem. This can be text, number, files, emails, messages, any problem you can think of, and it gets delivered inside to the system. Then on the output side, we have the solution, also in the form of text, numbers, files, emails, messages, whatever data you can think of. And now that we understand how the general system of an agent looks like, we zoom in and check out the ingredients of an AI agent. There are basically 5 important components that make any AI agent you can think of. First, we have a LLM, a large language model like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Llama, whatever you can think of. This is basically the brain where the intelligence comes into the agent. Then we have instructions. This is a prompt, as you might already know it from ChatGPT. And at the end of the day, it's just an instruction written in natural language what the AI agent can actually do and should do. Then we have a memory so that the agent is also capable of knowing what he just talked about or 2 days ago. Then there's the fourth component, specific knowledge. And this basically enables the AI agent to know things that are not publicly available. You could provide any document via PDF or an Excel table containing specific knowledge, and then the agent can know about exactly that knowledge contained in the document. And lastly, we have tools, and the tools enable the AI agent to actually do things like sending an email or putting an appointment into a calendar. So where can you actually build such an AI agent? Do you have to know about coding? There are millions of platforms out there like Relevance AI, LangChain, N8N, Flowwise, and so on, and all of them have their strengths and weaknesses. There are coding platforms and no-code platforms. In this tutorial, we will use Relevance AI, which is a no-code platform, as you will see in a minute. But just keep in mind that there are millions of platforms out there, and I highly recommend you to check out at least some of them to find out what works best for you. Good, that's it for part 1 of the tutorial, and now we start with part 2, where I show you my first AI agent I built for a friend's personal training business. First, we will see the general structure of the agent, what it can do, which tools it has provided, and then I will show you a live demonstration how it actually works on a website. Good, so let's jump in to part number 2, the first AI agent I built. On this slide, we see the AI agent I built for a friend's personal training business, Elite Body in Munich, Germany. So if anybody is watching interested in world-class personal training and online training, feel free to reach out to Elite Body. Greetings to my friend Alex. And here we see the general structure of the agent. First, we have a chatbot on the company website. Then we have the agent set up on Relevance AI, and the agent can basically do 5 different things. And the 5 things are inspired by the 5-step process of scheduling client calls, as we saw it earlier in the presentation. First, it can answer questions, then it can suggest free calls, it can schedule calls, it can update the PT's calendar, and it can send confirmation mails to the client. And all that without human involvement from the company side. On the next side, we see the AI agents tool. There are 5 tools. Tool number 1 is finding out the day of today whenever a message is coming in. Tool number 2 is retrieving answers from a knowledge set. So in that knowledge set is basically all the information contained about the personal training business and how it works. Then we have a tool that can put appointments into the PT's calendar. We have a tool that can send confirmation emails to customers, and we have a tool that can make call suggestions to the customer based on what is available in the PT's calendar. That's basically it. And in the next step, we will go to a test website I set up to test out the AI agent in action. Good. We are now on a test website I set up because I don't want to mess with the calendar of my friend by just typing in random messages and booking random dates. But we will test it out here. And this is exactly how it would work on any website where we implement the agent. So you see down here, we have a little speech bubble. And when we click on it, the agent interface is opening. It says, Elite Body, an AI agent that you can ask about our personal training services and book a free consulting call with us. How can I help you? So it's crystal clear what a customer can do here, and we can just check it out right now. Let's go with the first question. Where will the training take place? We send this out and then it takes a little while. The agent is basically in the back end checking the knowledge base we provided, looking exactly for the right information to answer that question. And when it finds it, it puts out the information right here on the screen. The training will take place at one of the 4 FitX gyms in Munich. The locations are, and then there are the 4 locations. This is absolutely correct and exactly what the agent should have done. Let's test out another question. For example, can I train with health problems? This is, of course, a very important question that also in real life is very important for the personal trainer to know. And let's find out what our AI agent will answer to that question. It is syncing, as you can see. And now we have an answer. No, you cannot train with health problems without informing us first. It's important that you have a green light from a doctor for physical activity. If you have any injuries or health problems, please let us know before starting the training. And this makes total sense because, of course, we can't train with people who have no green light from a doctor to actually train. This is dangerous and we have to avoid it. So this was a perfect response. Good. Now we tested out the question functionality of our agent and now it's time to book a call. Let's go with I want to book a trial session, and then the AI agent will understand that now it's time to suggest a call. I can help you schedule a 30-minute call with one of our personal trainers to discuss a trial session. Could you please provide me with your name, email, phone, optional but recommended, and your goal, optional but recommended. This information will help us prepare for the call. And this is exactly what we do now. I went with the example information of Markus Meyer, leverageprints@gmail.com. This is an old email address of mine, a random phone number. My goal is to build a massive chest and lose fat. So we send this out and then we wait for the agent respond. Now the agent is checking in the background in the calendar I provided which slots are actually available for a 30-minute call, and then it will suggest the calls to our client. Good. The agent is done. Thank you, Marcus. Here are some available time slots for a 30-minute call with one of our personal trainers. As you can see, there are quite a lot of appointments, but I instructed the agent to send a lot of appointments because we know from experience it's quite difficult to get people on the phone, and the more available slots there are, the better. Then the agent is also asking, please let me know which time works best for you. And I just answer, let's do Tuesday at 2 p.m. I sent this out and then we have to wait a couple of seconds more. Now the agent will put that date into my calendar and it will also send out a confirmation email to our potential client called Marcus. Great, your call is scheduled for Tuesday, April 15th at 2 p.m. I've sent a confirmation email to leverageprints@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out if anything changes. Is there anything else I can assist you with today? So now we are basically done. We could also keep going asking questions about the business, but our call is scheduled. And now we go over to the Google Calendar I provided and also to the email I provided to check out if it actually worked. I'm here in the Google Calendar and as you can see, Tuesday 15th on 2 p.m. we have an appointment with our lead Markus Meyer. The customer goal, my goal is to build a massive chest and lose fat, customer mail and customer phone. So this worked absolutely perfect. And now we go to the inbox of the email I selected. And also here we see we have a nice little confirmation. Hi Marcus, thanks so much for booking your free consulting call with us. We are looking forward to speaking with you on Tuesday, April 15th at 2 p.m. You will find our WhatsApp number attached. Feel free to reach out if anything changes. This is also the number we will use to call you on Tuesday. Here's the WhatsApp number, and then best regards, Team Elite Body. So this is exactly how we did it in the past with our clients, but now we don't have to do it anymore manually. The AI agent is doing everything for us. And as you can imagine, this is a huge help for the personal trainers of Team Elite Body. That's it for the second part of this tutorial. And now we come to part number 3, building this agent with Relevance AI. This will be the biggest and also the most difficult part of the tutorial, but you will learn a lot, and afterwards you will be able to build your own AI agent like that for whatever you want to achieve. I want to begin this third part of the tutorial with showing you the general structure of the AI agent you just saw, the concept, so to speak. And then on the next slides, I will show you the most important knowledge you need to be able to actually understand what's going on in the background and how that actually works on Relevance AI, so that when we go to Relevance AI afterwards, you already have in the back of your head what is actually happening, and it will be so much easier for you to actually understand what we do over there. And the idea is to give you with that video a knowledge base, so you can just pause the video, go back to that video, and just watch parts of the video again and again when you build your own AI agent on Relevance AI. As I told you not a long time ago, I went through this whole process for myself, learning everything about AI agents. And I know that sometimes it can be confusing in the beginning to know what actually to click, where to put the information, and so on. So this will be very valuable when you then try to build your own AI agent, because as you will see in a second, here you get general information, where to put information, where to put your variables, how to access them, and so on. So keep in mind to come back to that video when you build your first AI agent. Good, let's begin with it and check out the agent structure. On that slide, we see the Relevance AI agent structure of exactly the agent you just saw on that personal training website. First of all, we have the chat window at the company website. Then we have the agent that is based on Relevance AI, as you can see here. Within the agent, we have so-called core instructions. This is basically a huge text prompt telling what the agent should actually do. Then we have 5 tools that we also build with Relevance AI, and these core instructions reference to these tools, so the agent knows when to use these tools and for what to use these tools. And then one of our tools, the Retrieve Answers from Knowledge Set tool, has also access to a knowledge base, and this agent then can operate things in the real world, and that is setting up appointments in a Google Calendar and also sending confirmations with Gmail. So we have here the website, the agent, and actions in the real world. And in the next slides and steps, we will discover step by step how to build that system in Relevance AI. And I want to begin with the most important part, the so-called core instructions. The core instructions are exactly that, what you just saw here in the overview, but now we have a closer look. The agent's core instructions are basically a big prompt that tells the agent exactly how to behave, what to do, and which tools to use. There's a role, for example, customer support agent. There's a task, for example, answering questions, sending booking confirmations. There are tools, for example, email tool, calendar tool, and there are important notes. This is everything else of importance that our agent has to know. For example, what not to do and the communication style, and also what kind of output format the agent should use. And in the end, this can look like you see it here on the right side. This is a screenshot of the exact core instructions I used to build the agent you just saw. So this is a real life example, and in a minute we will also go to Relevance AI and I show you where you find this, how you set it up like this, where to click, and so on. And then we will also check out what's actually standing in that core instruction for exactly that agent. But this is the general concept, and I already want you to have this in the back of your mind when we actually approach that at Relevance AI. Good. The next thing I want to talk about is the knowledge base. And the knowledge base is basically specific knowledge our agent has to know about, for example, to be able to answer to business related questions. Of course, the agent could also scrape our website, but we can't be sure then that the agent actually uses the right information. And sometimes this can be critical. And if you want to make sure that you have full control about the responses of your agent, you can provide a so-called knowledge base. And a knowledge base is basically a table like that, which is also hosted on Relevance AI, where we have all the possible questions and answers. And no worries, the agent will be able to interpret the information you put there and to adapt it if the question is not exactly how you put it into that knowledge base, but this works absolutely fine, as you already saw it in the example before. And of course, I will also show you in a minute how to set this up at Relevance AI. Good. This was the easy part. Now we talk about tools and variables. And I already wrote it here. The next slides are the most complicated ones, but if you understand them, you are ready to go to build your own AI agent. So no worries if this is a little bit confusing, you can come back to it again and again. And especially when we go to Relevance AI and check it out in real life, you will perfectly understand what I'm actually talking about. Good, let's begin. So we have tools at Relevance AI. And here on the left side, I abstracted that. A tool has a name, a description, input variables, then certain steps where actually things are happening with the input variables, and we have a certain output. This is the abstract concept of any tool you build on Relevance AI. And then in Relevance AI itself, this can look like that. We have a title, the name, and a description. And it is very important that you actually choose a name that makes sense and also a description that makes sense, so that the AI agent later will understand when to use that tool and for what to use that tool. For example, making a call suggestion to a customer, a tool that checks for available 30-minute time slots in our Google Calendar and suggests free slots to a customer. And this is the first very important thing to understand. The agent works with natural language to understand these tools. So don't type in just a random name, for example, tool 123 and description XXX. This won't work. It's important to select a name that's actually suitable for the tool and also a description that is precisely what the tool will actually do. Then we have inputs, for example, date of today. Then we have certain steps, and these steps, our input data is actually transformed or things get done with that data. And then we have the output. For example, in that example, this could be different time slots for available call appointments. Good, that's it, how tools are generally set up on Relevance AI. And now we come to the part that is the most difficult, at least for me, or in the beginning, it was the most difficult for me, and this is variables in the tools. So we see here the image you just saw on the other slide, but now I highlighted in yellow and in red the external part of the tool and the internal part of the tool. No worries, in a minute you will understand what I actually want to tell you. So we have here the tool external, the tool agent interaction. So this is everything what's going out and into our tool. And this is basically the input variables and the tool's outputs. And these two things can be accessed by the agent by referencing them in the core instructions verbally. For example, use the tool texting customer to write an email with the customer name. And then the agent will understand that the input variable customer name has to go in here and that the output of this tool will be an email, for example. So this is the external communication of the tool, the agent tool interaction. And if we have a closer look, here we are back to the core instructions of our agent. As you saw it a couple of minutes ago, we can reference exactly such a tool in our core instructions as you see it here. Use the tool, find out day of today, we are referencing the name of a tool to find out which day it is today. And exactly that sentence, to find out which day it is today, is basically accessing the output of the tool. So this is the interaction between tool and agent with natural language. And that is why it is so important to select a good name for the tool, a good precise description, and also select good names for our input variables and our output variables, because then we can just tell the agent what this is and when to use it. So keep that in mind. Coming back to that slide, now we have a look at the other side, the tool internal tool step-to-step interaction. So first we discussed what is actually going out and into the tool, and now we look what is happening within the tool. So you see, within the tool we have different steps, operations where actually something is happening, and within these steps we have step output variables. So for example, in step 1 there's a result, and then the output of this first step is an output variable. And for example, we have here step 1 output variable, step 2 output variable, and so on. And we could call that, for example, call date. So out of step 3 is coming a variable called call date. And these variables can only be accessed within the tool's steps by referencing them with the following syntax. These double brackets and within the name of the variable. For example, double bracket, these nice round brackets, call date. And then we can, for example, reference the output of step number 2 in step number 3. And with that syntax, and a syntax is a way of writing something, we can move our variables through our tool and use, for example, the output of the first step again in the third step, and so on. Later you will fully understand how this functions when we have a closer look at real examples. For example, here we have tool step number 1, just as an example. You don't need to understand at that point what we are actually doing here. Just keep in mind we have a tool step number 1 and a tool step number 2. And the output of tool step number 1 is a variable called all time stamps. And then in the next step, we can access exactly that variable with the syntax we saw in the slide before. So now we have these double brackets and we call it all timestamps point output. So now we use exactly the output of the first step within that second step. And this is how you can transfer and access information within a tool. No worries, later you will better understand what is this actually about. I included that in the tutorial because I will know when you start building these tools, at one point you will think, now I would actually need the variable of step number 1. How can I exit it? And then you can just go back to that tutorial, watch it again, and then you will fully understand what you actually need to do. Whew, that was already the most difficult part. Now just some more things. What else you should actually know? No worries. I will just give you some suggestions, and as you go, you will understand why I already mentioned that here. As you go and you build your own AI agents, you will learn everything about that step by step, but it makes sense to already have in the back of your mind some little hints where you maybe need more information. Good. The first thing you should know about is what can an LLM, for example, OpenAI, ChatGPT, actually understand. A LLM is good in understanding words, but bad with numbers. And this is very important. Try to make it as easy as possible for the LLM to understand your data by transforming numbers into words if possible. And an example could be a timestamp. It is hard for the LLM to understand the following: 2025, 4, 8, T, 8, and then this thing at the end, but it's easy to understand Wednesday, April the 8th, AM, Berlin time. And whenever it is possible, you want to work with things like that that are also easy to understand for humans. Just keep in mind, if it is easy to understand for humans, it's also easy to understand for the LLM. This is a very important thing you need to know, and later you will see how this works in practice. Then secondly, you need to know what is a JSON. JSON, JavaScript Object Notation, is a simple text format used to store and exchange data. This sounds complicated, but No worries, it's actually quite easy. JSON contains data in key valuable pairs like this. We have key, for example, call suggestion 1, call suggestion 11, whatever, and we have a value. Thursday, April 10th, Tuesday, April 15th, and so on. So JSON is basically just a format that allows us to structure data in a way that is easier to process in Python steps, and it's also easier to understand by LLMs. So we are basically just cleaning up our output so that we can easier process this in the next steps. And I already mentioned it, Python. What is now Python? You should also know a little bit about Python. Python is a beginner-friendly programming language known for its clean and easy to read syntax. It's great for everything from simple scripts to complex applications. You can do a lot of stuff with it, but no worries, as Homer says it here, ChatGPT will do that for us. Just keep in mind, at one point you will need to use a little bit of Python. Even though Relevance AI is a no-code platform, some steps need a little Python script, for example, certain data transformations, as you see it down here. We have, for example, the input, as you see it here, like a very complicated timestamp, and then we can easily transform that with a little Python script into Wednesday, April 8th, 8 a.m. Berlin time. As you saw it earlier in exactly that presentation, we need to transform our data sometimes into something that is actually processable by a LLM, and therefore we won't come around Python. But whenever this is necessary, you can just go to ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT what it should do, what you need, that you need a little Python script for whatever you want to achieve, and you will get a script like that. You paste it and you don't even need to know what is happening. It will work, I promise you. And isn't that actually cool that you are able to program Python without actually knowing what it is? Good, we are almost done with the theory, and then we can go over to Relevance AI and finally build our AI agent. The last thing we should know is, what is an API key? An API key is like a password for apps. It's a unique code that lets your app talk to another app like Google Maps or ChatGPT and tells that service who you are. So it's just an authentication. For example, when we run on Relevance AI, the brain of our agent, the LLM, somebody has to pay for that, right? It's not for free. And then you can just enter your API key of OpenAI. This can look like that. You just go to platform openai.com, playground. More on that later. It's super easy. And then you get an API key that looks like that huge orange number you see at the bottom. And then you just paste that API key into Relevance AI. And whenever your agent uses the brain, ChatGPT, this API key gives access to your actual OpenAI account. And then like a fraction of a cent gets charged to you. No worries, this is super cheap. I use this since weeks and I maybe spent $2. So this is definitely not a huge cost problem. Just keep in mind, whenever you are asked about the API key, this is just a way that your applications can communicate with each other and to show one application that you have actually permission to do that. Good, now we are done with the theory, and I think this was a very important part of the tutorial. No worries, you don't need to understand everything completely now. I just want you to know that the information is there. And when you start building your agent, you just come back, watch it again, and then with the context of what you actually do, you will actually understand what you are doing. Now we go over to Relevance AI and we will look exactly at the AI agent you saw in action just a couple of minutes ago. And I will show you step by step how I build it, how the tools work, and so on. Keep in mind that I will provide all the resources you see within that course, the slides, the prompts, even the tools in my free AI course completely for free. Just log in, get the course, and then you can download all the resources and you're even faster. So you can just copy what I did and adapt it to your own needs. But now enough talking about theory, we go over to Relevance AI and check out my AI agent. Good, here we are finally at the starting screen of Relevance AI, the platform where we will build the AI agent you just saw in action a couple of minutes ago. First of all, I want to go through the interface and explain to you which are the most important parts of the interface, where you find your agents, your tools, the settings, and so on. And then we will go inside the AI agent I built, and I will show you the exact structure, the prompts, and also the tools, so that you really understand how the agent works and that you're really able to build the same agent for yourself or a similar agent for yourself. Good, so let's begin with the first important part of the interface, and this is obviously the settings. So when you click on the settings, you come to that page, and when you go to plan and billing, you see the subscription you have, your available credits, and your payment method. And when you sign up for free, you get 100 credits per day. This is quite a lot, and you can test out definitely some tools and an agent. But I can already tell you that when you are developing your own agent and you test a lot and you run it over and over again to debug it, you will definitely need more than 100 credits per day. But you can definitely check it out completely for free just to get some first experiences. I signed up for the first paid plan they have that costs about $19 or $20 per month, and you get 10,000 credits. And with 10,000 credits, I can tell you, you can run that thing the whole day and you won't run out of it. Then you select a payment method and you're good to go. And we can go back to the starting screen. Good. The second thing, which is of importance, is this part here, agents. And when you go to that part, you see all the agents you already built. And when you want to exit it or change it, just go there and you find it there. And of course, if you sign up to the platform, this is completely empty because you haven't built your first AI agent yet. Then the next important part is tools. And here at the tools section, you see all the tools you ever created on the platform Relevance AI. As you can see, I already built quite a lot of them, sometimes just to test out things and to play around and to gain own experience with the platform. And this is also what I recommend to you when you actually want to learn to build AI agents. Just start out by building some tools, building some agents to gain own experience. Good. After the tools section, we have knowledge. And here at knowledge, you can basically set up knowledge bases for your AI agents. As you saw it in the theory part of the tutorial, knowledge bases allows your agent to know about things that are not publicly available. And here in that knowledge area, you can just create a new table by clicking here on blank, and then you can give it a name. And if you do that, you end up with something like that. And this is the knowledge base of our personal training agent. And as you can see, we have all the questions here. For example, how much is the personal training, and the answers. And you can just extend that and edit it. And every time you do that, the agent has the newest information available. Very simple, very easy, and pretty straightforward. Good. Then we have two more things like the activity center and the analytics. This is more of relevance if you run that agent on bulk, on big scale, on a huge website. Then it's of course interesting. Okay, how are people using that agent? How much do you pay for it? And so on. But we won't use that in that tutorial. I just want to show you one more thing, and this is integrations. When you click on integrations, you see that I already integrated some things. For example, Google, Gmail, Calendar, and so on. HubSpot, which is a CRM. Firecrawl, which is a platform that allows you to scrape information from other websites. And of course, OpenAI. Why do you need such integrations? As you can see, there are quite a lot of tools available. Whenever your agent has to access another platform like Gmail or HubSpot or use an LLM from OpenAI, you need to integrate these platforms using so-called API keys, as you just heard it in the theory part. And whenever this is demanded, you can set it up right here. So keep this already in mind. And I will show you in a second how to set up your OpenAI API key to be able to use your ChatGPT within that agent. Good, that's it regarding the interface and what you have to know about it and where you find everything. Now we go over to OpenAI, the so-called OpenAI Playground. And yeah, if you go there, you just log in with the same login you would use for ChatGPT. And when you go then to dashboard and down here to API keys, you see a section like that that should be empty if you never used it. And when you want to create a new API key, you just click here on create new secret key. You give it a name, a project, and then you hit create secret key. And then you get exactly such a big number. Remember the big orange number you saw in the theory slides, and that number you take over to Relevance AI. And then when you go to the integration of OpenAI, you just click on it, you paste your API key, and from now on, whenever you use ChatGPT within your Relevance AI agent, that API key allows you to actually access your OpenAI account and you get billed there. As I already told you earlier, this is super cheap. Don't worry about it. You will just pay fractions of cents per usage. And even after an entire month, this costs you maybe, I don't know, $3 or $4. So no worry about that. Good, that's it now regarding the integration of OpenAI and the entire interface. Now we start checking out the agent I built. We click here on agents, then we see all the agents already available. And of course, we click here on the Elite Body AI agent. And when you do that, you see that right under the name of the agent, there is a list of tools. And these are the 5 tools I created for that AI agent and that I provided to that AI agent. Here on the right side, we have some more information. For example, the last run 18 hours ago, last modified 2 hours ago, and when it was created. And at that point is of course important to state, if you want to build your own fresh AI agent from scratch, you click up here to new agent. Then you come to a screen like that and you fill that out step by step. But I think the best way to show you how you actually build an agent is to go back to my agent I built, and then we go through all this information so you see how to fill it out and how to actually use the platform. So we cancel that and we go back to the Elite Body agent I created. And when we then click here on Edit Agent, you see that this is exactly the screen you just saw when we clicked on create a new agent, but now it's already filled out. I uploaded the logo of the company, I gave it a name, Elite Body AI agent, and also a description. And remember what I told you in the theory part about the name of the tools, same goes for the agent. Give it a good name and a good description. Why is that important? Also, agents can communicate with each other, and when your agent has a good description, other agents can easier identify that agent and actually use it the correct way. So we have the name here, the description, an AI agent that you can ask about our personal training services and book a free consulting call with us. Then we have some triggers. This is not important in that particular use case because the agent will be just triggered whenever we use it on the website. But for some applications that should run passively in the background, you need to use a trigger. For example, when a new client gets added to your CRM, then you could use such a trigger on HubSpot. But for that agent, we don't use that. Good, that's the agent profile. And then we come to the next part, the core instructions. And the core instructions, as the word already says, is the core of the agent. I already showed you that in the theory part. Here we have a huge text prompt that basically contains the entire behavior, all the roles, the tasks, and the actions and the specifics of that agent to make it behave how we actually want that. We will go through exactly these core instructions in a second, but first I want to show you the other parts of the agent of importance, and then we will come back to the core instructions and I show you everything step by step. The next thing we will use is tools. When we click on it, you come to a screen like that. And here on the left side, you see all the tools available for that agent. And if you want to add another tool, you just click here on add tool, and then you can select out of the tools you already created or of the default tools already available by Relevance AI. So keep that in mind. We will also look into the structure of all these tools in a minute, but let me finish first here with their overall menu. We have also sub agent. This would be helpful if we want to use other agents. For example, if you have two agents and you want them to collaborate, then you can call them here and just add them to your agent. Good, and this is already everything we will use now to set up and to understand the AI agent I built. And of course, I want to start with the core instructions. The first important part is up here. Here you can select the kind of AI that will be used to operate your agent. I recommend you to just go with OpenAI ChatGPT because most people already have an account there and you're maybe already familiar with ChatGPT. So just go with that. But keep in mind, you could use many other AIs as well. But for that project, I went with ChatGPT 4.0. And now I want to go with you through that entire core instruction so that you really understand what is happening there and that you are able to adapt that to your own project. Good, we go to the top and we start with the role. You are a world-class customer service agent of a personal training company called Elite Body. You are an expert in answering customer questions based on knowledge you find in a knowledge base, taking in customer information, setting up calls in a Google Calendar, and sending confirmation emails. You are always friendly and professional. Your language is not too formal, suitable for a personal training business. So this is the overall role that the agent actually understands what it is and what it should do. In the next step, we will break down that doing part a little bit more by writing the specifics of the tasks of our AI agent. And I can already tell you this is the most important part of the core instruction. And this is also the part where most likely the most errors will occur. And this is why I highly recommend you to write down the process you want to automate with your agent step by step so that you already have a clear vision what you actually want to do. And then you come back to the core instructions and you try to formulate that into a decent prompt. Good, let's have a closer look at the tasks. You will be triggered when a new customer enters a message in the chat window at our website. Your job is to think step by step and go through the following process. And now we list the process. And here it is very important to already think of the correct order how that process should be executed. Because the better you describe how a real customer will actually interact with the agent, the better the result in the end, because the agent doesn't confuse the order. So in the first step, we start with ask the customer what you can do for him or her and answer the customer's questions exclusively with the information you find in the knowledge base. Retrieve answers from knowledge set. And as you can see, we referenced a tool here, and you do that by just using the slash sign. And when you do that, you see that this window is opening. You click here on tools, and then you have a selection of all the tools and sub agents available. And when you click here, for example, on sending call information, you see now the tool gets referenced here within the core instructions. I will delete that because obviously we don't need it at that point, but this is exactly how you can tell the agent which tool to use when. And this is also why the title of the tool is so important. I think now you fully understand. Good, let's keep going. It's extremely important that you never ever include the words knowledge base or PDF in your responses. Avoid that at all costs. Act and talk like a real human person. Why did I add that? Very simple. In the beginning, when I tested the agent, it was always mentioning where it found the information it gave. For example, I found that in the knowledge base, and this sounds very strange. This is why I instructed the agent to avoid it. Good, let's keep going. If there is something you can't answer or the customer asks about a call or a trial training, offer the customer to schedule a 30-minute call with one of our personal trainers. If you offer a call, tell the customer that we need to collect some personal information first to be able to book the call right now. Ask the customer to provide name, email, phone, optional but recommended, so we can call the scheduled time, and the customer goal, optional but also recommended, so we can better prepare for the call. After the customer sent his or her personal information, tell the customer that you are now checking our calendar for available slots for the call. Tell the customer that this might take up to 60 seconds. This is also important just to improve the user experience, because if you are waiting and it takes a minute and you expected the answer in 10 seconds, you might just leave the website. So this is important. Use the tool find out day of today. You see, we referenced another tool to find out which day it is today, and the tool making a call suggestion to the customer to check which days and times are available in our calendar for the call. After that, we follow with as soon as you know which days and times are available for a call, suggest available slots to the customer and ask him or her to make a selection which fits best. Wait for the customer to choose one of your suggestions. When the customer told you which day and time he or she wants, tell the customer that you will send a call confirmation via email. In step number 8, send the call confirmation to the customer using the tool sending call confirmation to customer. Step number 9, put the call appointment as selected by the customer in our Google Calendar with the tool putting call appointment in calendar. And point number 10, ask the customer if there's anything else you can do for him or her. As you can see, this is a description of the entire behavior and all the tasks to do by the AI agent. And when you remember, when we checked out the agent on my website, you see this is exactly what the agent did. And now you understand why the agent did it using exactly these core instructions. Good. After the part task, which we discussed right now, we can go on with the tools. You see that here we have in the core instruction also a section about tools. And in that section, we will tell the agent which tools are actually available. You will always follow the same process when you receive new data. You will always proceed step by step, starting from one task to the next to ensure a good outcome. To help with this, use the following tools. Tool 1, retrieve answers from knowledge set. This is a knowledge base where you get your information from to answer customer questions. Tool 2, find out day of today. This tool lets you find out which day of the week it is, which is important to schedule calls with customers. Tool number 3, making a call suggestion to the customer. This tool gives you the opportunity to check our Google Calendar for available days and times to schedule a call with the customer. Tool number 4, sending call confirmation to customer. This tool lets you send an email confirmation to a customer. And tool number 5, putting call appointment in calendar. This tool lets you write the customer date and selection into our Google Calendar. You see, this is the toolbox of our agent. And with that instruction, the agent knows when to use the tools and also for what to use the tools. Now that I told the agent which tools are available, there's one more thing, the important notes. And in that section, you can tell the agent all the important information it also has to know to execute the tasks as you want it. For example, don't tell or show the customer what exactly you do in the background. Stick to your instructions, because I don't want the agent to tell the customer, I'm looking now for information. I just want the agent to do it. Maintain a professional and efficient tone when interacting with the tools and executing tasks. This is also quite obvious. We don't want the agent to be kind of rude, and we always want it to behave professional. If a customer doesn't want to provide a phone number or email address, tell him or her that we need at least an email address to send a call booking confirmation. Let the customer know that if he or she doesn't provide a phone number, we expect the customer to call us at a scheduled time. We recommend leaving a phone number as we will call 100%. So this is also very important because maybe people have concerns regarding their data, but of course, we need any kind of phone number or email to be able to reach out to the customer. And finally, the booked appointment is just a call and not a training session. This is also very important because when I tested the agent, I found out that when people asked about the trial session, the agent suggested a trial training. And I wanted to be clear that at the scheduled time, there will be a call and no training session. Good. This is all regarding the core instructions. And yeah, you see, it's actually not that difficult if you fully understand what you actually want to do and what kind of behavior you want to see in the agent. You should be totally able to write a core instruction like that. Now we go to the tools section. If we click here, you see all the tools that are available for our agent. And it is important that you add here all the tools you want to use, because otherwise you can't reference them in the core instructions. And you just do that by clicking here on add tool and then it is added. Here is one important thing, and that is that button up here, auto run. So the default for all the tools is requires approval. And when a tool requires approval, the agent won't continue with its actions until this is confirmed by a human. So if you want the agent to run completely autonomously without human involvement, make sure to set all your tools to auto run. And then there are two more important things. One is the prompt how to use. You actually don't need to fill that out as long as you have a good description for your tool, because then this description will be used as a default prompt, how to use that prompt. And then there's the behavior if the tool errors, and the default is also to use the default settings. Here you can define what your tool should do if there is an error occurring. To be honest, you actually don't need that, just leave it as it is. Down here we have two more things like sub-agents and metadata. For that project, we don't need that, but here you could reference other agents and then they can collaborate and work together. But in that particular example, we just use one agent, so we don't need that as well. Good, now you know where are the core instructions and what to write there. You see where you find the tools. And now we go through the most important part. We go through all these tools so that you know how they work, how I structured them. And after that, you actually know everything about that agent, and you also learned how to build your own one. Good. And to check out how our tools are actually built, we go out here of our agent. We go back to the starting screen and then we click here on tools. And then we see all the tools available and we can go inside them and also edit them. One important information at that point, if you want to create a new tool from scratch, you just click up here, new tool, and then you come to an interface like that. You have also some tutorials which are quite useful, but this is basically the starting screen. You start with a title, a description, inputs, and steps. But I will show you that now in the already existing tools, because then you really understand what is happening there and where to put what. I think this makes more sense than just building a random new tool. So we go back, and now I want to go to the 5 tools that our agent is actually using, and I also want to go through the tools in the correct order so that you also understand how these tools work together, what is the output of a tool, what is the input, and so on, so that you see the big picture of my AI agent. And the first tool our agent uses is the retrieve answers from knowledge set. You might have noticed that there are these little smileys, and this is not mandatory. Relevance AI just gives you the opportunity to give a little smiley. It makes it a little bit easier for you as well to find and identify the right tool, but you don't have to do that. I just think it's a little bit funny and I like to work with these smileys. Good. We start with the first tool, retrieve answers from knowledge set, and when we click on it, we come to the inside of the tool. And now you see how this looks filled out. We have a title, retrieve answers from knowledge set, and we have a precise description, retrieve precise answers from a specified knowledge set based on user queries. Keep in mind that this is a default tool already available on Relevance AI, so I didn't build that tool. The only thing I did here was to provide it the right knowledge set. And when you click here, you see that I gave it the knowledge base elite body CSV. And this is exactly the knowledge base you saw earlier when I showed you the entire platform and we went through knowledge base. And here you see now that you can just select it, and then this tool can access exactly that knowledge set. And as I told you, I haven't built that tool. This tool is already completely ready, available in Relevance AI, and the output is always the answer to our question. Here on the left side, you see all the steps of the tool, so everything which is happening after each other, but this doesn't make too much sense in a tool I didn't build. We will go through these steps in the next tool that I actually built on my own. So we go out of the tool and we go to the next tool. And this was finding out the day of today. You maybe remember the core instructions. We told the agent that whenever somebody is reaching out to us, it's important to find out which is the day of today. And so I built a little tool to make that happen. The name is find out day of today. And the description is a tool that finds out which exact day of the week it is and outputs a timestamp like that. Why did I select that timestamp? You will understand it when we go to the next tool. This is basically the input our next tool is demanding, and this is why I selected that timestamp. Here we don't have any input, but we just have a little Python code that is running. And if we look at it, you see, this is what I already showed you in the example slides. It's not too much, and ChatGPT did that for me. What did I tell ChatGPT? I told it that I want the timestamp of today and that it is putting out this timestamp in exactly that format. And Python is absolutely available to do that. And the result of the tool is to get a timestamp in exactly that format of today. And when we click here on Run Tool, we actually can test it out. So we wait for a couple of seconds. It's running. And now you see we have the timestamp 2025, April 10th, and it's the time 17:37. And this is exactly the time also visible here. So this works perfect. And now we have the tool output, this time step, and this output will be used in the next tool. Good. So let's go back to all our tools. We don't want that to be saved. And now we come to the most difficult but also most important tool of our AI agent, and this is making a call suggestion to the customer. When I load it, you see there are quite a lot of steps involved, and we will go through them now step by step. So the overall idea of that tool is to use user input like date of today, and then the tool should automatically find out which available time slots we have in the next 5 following work days. So we don't want to have available slots on weekends. We just want the tool to consider the next 5 working days. Okay, and I will show you now how the tool will do that. We also have the description, making call suggestions to the customer, a tool that checks for available 30-minute time slots in our Google Calendar and suggests free slots to a customer. So this is crystal clear. And then we have the input date of today. And remember what I told you in the theory part. The agent, as it is instructed like that in the core instructions, knows now, oh, I have a tool that gives me date of today, and I have a tool that demands date of today. And then the agent will take that time step we just created in the tool before and put it exactly in that input. And when you want to define such an input within the tool, you can do that by just clicking here on, for example, text. And you see now we have the opportunity to define another input, for example, username or calendar name, whatever. Just keep in mind that up here you can define whatever input you want. I will delete that again because we don't need it, but this is very important. And as you can see, there are different data types of inputs. Most of the time you will work with the normal text variable. So it's just text, it's called a text string, and it is showing what kind of data this variable actually is. Then the LLM puts in here our date stamp of today, and now we can go through that process step by step and we can look at all the steps. What you see here, these are steps, and in each step of that tool something is happening with our data. And to better show you how this actually works, we will run the tool one time with just a random timestamp, and then you see how it runs. And the good thing then is we have actually data within our tool, and we can go through it step by step and you will understand what's actually happening. Here on the left side you see it gets executed one step after each other until we finally come to the output. And you see the output is basically just a suggestion of different calls available in our calendar. And the input, when we go up, was date of today. And now we go through that tool and I will tell you step by step what the tool is doing and why I selected the way I did it. Good. The first step is again a little Python step. We expand that. We have such a nice little script again. And the reason I included that Python step is because as an input, we have exactly that, the date in exactly that format. But remember what I told you about LLM. To make the LLM actually understand what day and time it is today, I need it in a different data format. I need it in a form that also mentions the weekday, the month, the day in a 24-hour clocked format, so that it looks like that. And that Python script is exactly doing that. So the input is something like that, and the output is something like that. Because now we have also the weekday mentioned, it's Thursday. And this is easier for the LLM to understand what day it is actually. And then I can easier apply a logic with the LLM, what you will see in the next step. So now we have that, Thursday, April 10th at 8 o'clock. And then comes an LLM step. You see, here, when we open that, we have a prompt window. And this is an LLM step. Now we are actually using ChatGPT to solve a task for us. We also have a role. You are a world-class appointment organizer and you can exactly define specific start and end dates of the next 5 following workdays whenever you get triggered. So here we already have it, just workdays. Task. Take the date of today. And then we mentioned a variable. How did I do that? I used these double brackets, as you can see it here. And then we can access all the variables of the steps before. So what was an output, for example, of the step before can be used now as input. I also mentioned that in the theory part, but now you see that in practice. Remember when we talked about inside variables within the tool, this is exactly happening here. So we had up here the output, exactly that variable, and now we are accessing it within the tool. Take the date of today and find out which day of the week it is: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Depending on which day of the week it is, you decide which of the following scenarios you have to execute. Scenario 1, it is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. You create 2 new variables that have the same format as today, date, and time, but also one for 8 a.m. the next day and one for 21:30, 5 days after. Ignoring Saturday and Sunday, just count workdays. You call these variables checking start date and checking end date. So what do I do here? I take the date of today and then I want the LLM to create 2 more timestamps. One for the next day at 8 a.m. and one for 5 work days later at 9:30 p.m. Why do I do that? Because in the next step, we will actually check the Google Calendar, and there we have to tell the calendar, okay, where will we start our search and where will we end it? So this is why I did that. But coming back to the prompt, you see, we also have a second scenario. If it is Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you create 2 new variables that has the same format as today, date, and time, but one for the next Monday at 8 and one for the next Friday at 21:30. You call these variables checking start date and checking end date. You see, now we have 2 scenarios. And depending on what weekday it is, the LLM will create the start point of our calendar search and the end point of our calendar search. And I think I can better explain it by going to a Google Calendar. So let's say today is Monday, the 28th of April, when our inquiry is coming in. Then the LLM will select next Tuesday, the next day after at AM, to start searching in our calendar. And it will leave out Saturday and Sunday, and it will just make sure to include 5 working days. So let's count them: 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it would also be included the Monday, 5th of May, to complete the 5 working days. If somebody is reaching out at a weekend, for example at Saturday, it will start looking at Monday the 5th and then just filling off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and it will end the search at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday. And by that, we make sure that the calendar only gets checked within our working hours and working days. Good, but let's go back to Relevance AI and check out the rest of the prompt. The output you deliver has to look exactly like the examples I show you. Specifics. It is vital to my career. You will output your findings in a valid JSON format. Remember JSON in the presentation you saw earlier. You will always use the same headers as mentioned above and in the example, and the headers are basically the names of the data within the JSON. You will not add anything to the output, no explanations, no summary, nothing but the valid JSON. And then comes an example, or better, three examples, how I want the LLM to output the response. And this is very, very important because the easiest way to tell the LLM what you actually want to see as an output is to show it some examples. For example, in example number 1, I stated output example 1, today is Tuesday, the 8th of April, and then I showed it exactly what kind of JSON output I want. You see, we have the brackets. This is exactly how a JSON is structured. We have search dates and then checking start date, how we want it, and checking end date, also how we want it. I gave the LLM two more examples just to make sure it fully understands what I actually want to see. Good, and then at the end of these instructions, we have also notes. It is vital to my career. You will output your findings in a valid JSON format. Do not include these little stripes and JSON at the beginning of your output and not these little stripes at the end of the output. You don't need to fully understand why this is. I just want to make sure that the exact valid JSON format gets outputted without any descriptions and so on, because then it is easier to transform that into an actual JSON in the next step. Because the output of an LLM is always text. Even though this looks like a JSON format, it is not. It is just text. And to be able to transform that into a valid JSON in the next step, we have to make sure that the output actually looks like a JSON. And then we don't need any stripes and commas that should not be included in the syntax. So just keep that in mind. Good. So as you can see, this is the output of that LLM step. It was a big step, but this is what we get. And then comes another step called convert to JSON. And this is very, very practical. And now you will probably understand why we structured it like that. I told you this looks like a JSON, but it is actually not a JSON. And then we have an already built-in step in Relevance AI called convert to JSON. And whenever we use that, it just converts the output of the step before into an actual JSON format. And as you learned it in the theory part of the tutorial, with a JSON format, it's way more structured and it's way easier to process the data in the following steps. And now, after that steps, our timestamps are converted into a JSON format and we can easier extract them in our next tool step. And the next tool step is check Google Calendar availability. And when I click here on expand, we can look inside the tool and you will understand that this is actually not difficult at all, because we select up here the Google account of our calendar and then you just log in like you would log into YouTube or any other Google service. Very easy. And you don't need to work with any code here, just log in. Then the tool requires a start date. And it also tells us in which format we want that start date. And this is basically when the tool is starting to look for available time slots in our calendar. And also here you see again, we use the double brackets to access the output variable of the step before to access exactly that timestamp. Yeah, we did that here. And of course, we also need an end date. And we also did that with the double brackets. You see checking end date, checking start date, and then we selected the slot duration, 30 minutes. And we also can define here from when to when during the day we want to look for available time slots. Here I selected 12 until 9:30 p.m. because my friend told me this is actually when he's most available. And yeah, this is why I selected this time slot. So now every day between here and here, between 12 and 9:30 p.m., the tool is looking for available calendar slots of 30 minutes. And then we also can select the time zone. As the business is operating in Europe, in Germany, I selected Europe Berlin time. And then the output of that tool are all the available time slots between the start and the end that we stated. And now we have one more problem. You see, now we have the stamps again in this ugly number format, but remember the LLM needs the stamps in a form that is more human friendly. So we need something like, you see here, Friday, April 11th. This is easier for the LLM to process. So we have a little Python step again. If I expected, you see a little script here, also written completely with ChatGPT. And that script is basically doing nothing else but taking that data format up here and just transforming it so that it looks like that. So now we have the workday actually stated, we have the name of the month, and it just looks more human friendly. And then with that output, we can go to another LLM step. And now we select the timestamps that we actually want to suggest to our customers. So I begin again with role. You are a world-class appointment setter and you are very good in looking at available timestamps of a day and writing them down. You work very structured and organized and you do everything step by step so you don't make errors. Task. Take a very close look at the date stamps provided in the variable all timestamps output, and these are exactly these timestamps. You see, we use the double brackets again, and cut out date stamps from Saturday and Sunday. Don't select timestamps from Saturday and Sunday. Only output date stamps that are from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. You see, by that, we just cut out the weekend because we just want to focus on work days. Then I gave it another example. Output, you see, this typical JSON format. Call suggestion 1, Thursday, March 13 at 1 p.m. and so on. I just filled it out to give it some examples, and then we followed with specifics. It is vital to my career. You will output your findings in a valid JSON format. You always use the same headers as mentioned above in the example. You will not anything to the output, no explanations, no summary, nothing but the valid JSON. Important note, don't make up timestamps, only use the available timestamps provided. This is very important because if we don't say something like that, if the LLM is confused, it will just make up any time spot. And this is, of course, very bad for our business. So include something like that. It is vital to my career. You will output your findings in a valid JSON format. Do not include, and then again, these little stripes and JSON at the beginning of your output, nor at the end of the output. This is also based on experience, because if you don't do that, sometimes you have this little header or extra explanation that it is a JSON, but it is actually ruining our JSON format. This is why you want to have that in the prompt. Don't select timestamps from Saturday and Sunday. Pay very close attention and don't miss a single available timestamp. If you see something like that, this is because I tested out the agent a lot, and after a while you find out what works, what doesn't work, which are the typical errors the agent is doing, and over time you know exactly what to write and add to your prompt to make the agent actually behave how you want it. You can also select the LLM model. I went with ChatGPT 4.0. This is the best version so far, and because it's kind of a complex task, it is better to go with that one. There are also faster models like ChatGPT 4.0 mini, but if you have something kind of complex, you want to go with the best model. Good. Then we can look at the answer. You see, now we have only selections between workdays Friday, April 11th until Tuesday, April 15th, based on what is actually available in my calendar right now. Good. And then we had another JSON step. You see, this is quite repetitive. Most of the time, you just need to convert it in a real JSON. And then the output of our tool finally is exactly that. All the available call dates in a nice and clean JSON format. And with that, we can actually work within other tools. And down here, you always see the final output of the tool. So once again, if we go up, you see we started out with just that description of the date of today. And in the end, we got a nice and clean looking selection of dates and times in a valid JSON format. And from here, we can go on. And of course, we do that. We just go out of the tool. I will save that. and then we go on with the next tool. Good, so now we already discussed 3 of our 5 tools. We started out with the tool retrieve answers from knowledge set, then find out the day of today, and then making a call suggestion to a customer. So now there are just 2 more tools missing, and they are actually quite simple, so let's check them out. First one, sending call confirmation to customer. This is actually a quite easy tool, starting with the description. Sending call confirmation to customer, a tool that lets you send a call confirmation to a customer. So as an input, we just have customer name, customer email, and call selection of the customer. And with these 3 inputs, we can actually formulate a confirmation email and sending out to our customer. Afterward, there's a little Python step, and this Python step is basically just making sure that we always talk to our customer with the first name. This is just typical for personal training as it is not so formal. And this Python code is just taking in the customer name and just chopping off if there's anything in the end, and then only putting out the first name of the customer. And also this Python code was completely written with ChatGPT, very plain and simple. Afterwards, we come to a LLM step. You are a world-class personal assistant and you know how to write professional emails to customers. Then the task, you get provided the name, then here the first name of our customer that came out of the Python step, an email address of a customer, and a timestamp. This is basically the time that the customer confirmed, which is also coming out of that Python step you just saw. The time step is the date and time the customer selected to book a free consulting call with us. Your task is to write a confirmation email confirming the selected date and time. The email should sound natural and the day and time should be readable, human friendly as shown in the example email. Structure the email as follows. Then, hi, then the first name of our customer. Thank you so much for booking your free consulting call with us. We are looking forward to speaking with you. Then the weekday that came out of our Python step, April, for example, 23rd at 15. You'll find our WhatsApp number attached. Feel free to reach out if anything changes. This is also the number we will use to call you on Monday. WhatsApp, and then best regards leaderboards. So this was basically how I want the agent to structure the email and that he knows where to put which information. And then I just followed up with a little example where I basically filled it out. Hi Marcus and Wednesday and so on, so that the LLM actually sees the complete final output. And then also some important notes. Don't include the subject into the mail you write. Name the customer with his or her first name. For example, if the customer name provided is Markus Meyer, just use Marcus when addressing the customer in the email. Don't address the customer like that. Hi, customer's first name. That would be weird. Address the customer like that. Hi, Marcus. Sync step by step and pay close attention to really confirm the correct day of the week and the correct time. This is essential for my success. Don't make up dates, only confirm what you really understand and what's provided to you in the input data. Don't use the email of the customer to guess the name of the customer. Only use the name provided by the customer and call the customer only as the customer told in the chat. You see, these prompts are more or less always the same. There's a role, there's a task, there are some important notes, and you just have to make sure to be precise here and to enable the agent, the tool, to actually understand what it should do. Then we can select also the model, in that case ChatGPT 4o mini, because it's not very difficult to write an email. And then we have a Gmail step here. If I expand that, also very simple. You just log in with the email account you want to use. Up here, we select the customer email, also with these double brackets. This is a tool input. You could select CC, BCC, whatever you want, and also an email subject, confirmation, your free consulting call with lead body, and the email body is basically what came out here of the LLM step, the final email that gets entered exactly here, and that's it. Whenever this tool runs, the email goes out to our customer. Good, we are here back to our tool overview, and now there's just one tool missing, putting call appointment in the calendar. This is also a very simple tool. As you can already tell here at the left side, we have not a lot of steps. We have as an input, if we expand this a little bit, the customer name, the customer email, the customer goal, the customer phone number, the start date and time, the end date and time, and that's it. Because this is all the information we need to put that into our calendar. I want in the appointment in my calendar the name, the phone, the email, and also the goal available. And of course, we need a date and time to actually set the date correctly. Good. And with all these inputs, we go into that step, create Google Calendar event. Also here, you just put in your Gmail account of your calendar, and then you can give the calendar event a title, call with new lead, and then here customer name. So this gets filled out automatically. Description, customer goal, then here the customer goal, customer mail, we have the mail, customer phone, we have the phone number if available, and then we have start time and end time of the appointment in our calendar. As you see, this is everything what was provided up here. It gets filled in into that step, and the output is that this appointment is now in our Google Calendar as you saw it in the live demonstration. So guys, now we talked about all the tools, and step by step we come to an end. Actually, you already know now the most important parts of building an agent. You saw all the tools, you saw the core instructions of the agent and so on, and you also saw how to put everything together. Now there's just one thing missing, and this is how to implement the agent, for example, on a website, or to just run it and test it out. And to do that, you click on agent again. And when you do that, this interface is loading. And as you can see here, you see like logs of tests I ran in the past. And this is like a testing window. And here you can just check the agent out and test it by just typing in messages. So this is very good for debugging and finding out what's actually happening, because you will always see in the back what the agent actually did, and for example, which results and input the agent used. So this is very helpful if you want to find out why the agent isn't doing what you planned. Then you can just run it here and you can better debug and find out what's actually the problem. If you tested it and it is doing well and you're ready to implement it, you can go up here to share. When you click on it, you have several opportunities. For example, chat UI. This is basically such a static big chat window. We have a chat widget. This is like a little speech bubble on a website is popping up, and then you have that chat window. This is exactly what you saw in the live demonstration, and you have two more options for coding, HTML and so on, but we will use just the chat widget for now. So when you do that, you see you have the opportunity to style that chat window a little bit. You can select, for example, here what kind of icon you want to have for that bubble, or you can upload your logo. You can select the colors, and then here you also have something very useful, the starting prompt. For example, if you write here something like, I want to book a free 30-minute consulting call, this is already available as a button, and this is already incentivizing the customer to click on it, because obviously as a personal training company, we want the client to actually book a call with us. And with that, it's easier for the client to actually understand. But of course, there's also a little description of the agent available that will be visible on top of the chat window. But this is basically the description of the agent. And when you are satisfied with the styling of your chat window, you get a little code. And you just copy that code, and then you go to the back end of your website. For example, I built that test website on Hostinger, and here I can just go to integrations, and then you go to custom code. And here it already says it. Paste the snippet of code provided by the tool or service above, and it will be injected into the head section of your website. You don't really need to understand what this is. You just have to know that any website has a header section in the code of itself, and here you have to paste that code. If you coded your website with HTML, you know what I mean, but any other website builder always has something like that, where you can just paste custom code. And then all you do is you paste it in here, you save your website, and then when you launch the website, you have it here, and when you click on it, the agent interface is opening and it is ready to go. So this is very, very simple, and it works on any website in the internet. I won't check it out again because we already did that in the live demonstration, but now you know how you actually do that to actually implement your agent on a real existing website. Guys, we did it. Congratulations. That's it for the tutorial on how to build an AI agent for a personal training company. If you own a similar business or you know someone who would need a solution like that, well, that's a solution that you can adapt. And just like that, you have your own AI agent saving you a lot of time and money, and you could even sell such an agent to other business owners. Speaking of adaptation, I already told it earlier in the video, if you want to have all these resources I used to build that agent, like the prompts, the tools, and even the slides I showed here in the presentation, just enroll in my free AI course. I will put exactly that video into the free course as well with all the resources so that you can just download them and adapt them to your own needs. I think this is the easiest way for you to build your own AI agent, especially if you have not a lot of experience yet. Just enroll for free and you will find everything there. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and you got a lot of value out of it. If so, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments if you would like to see more big tutorials like that. I hope we see each other in the next video. Take care and goodbye.